But I just wanted to make him more mad and say we were vegan.
You forgot to say we're vegan too! Don't forget!
And then, so we pulled out the phone, and then she got all pissed off and started calling us
Yeah. But when I was
organic
recording,
whitewash privileged bitches.
when I started recording her,
Organic.
she stopped talking shit, and I was just like, "What happened?" And she's like, "I can't believe you're recording me. You're so rude." And I'm like, "I'm rude. Like you're the one following us and talking shit
For
to
no
us."
reason. There was like not even a lot of traffic. There was like so much space all over the road, and she's like, it was just like the sight of us triggered her.
I'm Rachel.
I'm Jane.
I'm Jackie.
And our group is the Mixed Race.
The mixed race began when Rachel and I were volunteering in this space, the Bikerwave. It's a bike co-op, and I took her on a few of the nighttime rides at the time in 2017.
Yeah.
And she said, why don't we just start our own ride? Because we would show up and we would notice like it's just a bunch of guys, and we were kind of like not really feeling like part of the group or club. Like we were all trying to ride fast, and that part was fun, but like then they'd stop and hang out and just like drink and smoke, and that also wasn't really our scene. So we were like, she said, let's just start our own ride. And I was like, no, you're crazy. I have no qualifications
I don't remember
to do
saying
that.
that.
Oh, it was totally your idea.
Oh, cool.
And I was like, I am horrible with directions. I can't see the road signs at night. Like, there is nothing. I have no skill to lead this ride.
And then
she's like, we can do it. No problem.
Yeah, well, let's try, right? And then we're like, okay, well, what if we made it like once a month? Because like once a week is a lot of commitment.
But we did one, and we were like, this is fun.
It was
Let's
awesome.
just keep.
We were like,
doing
see you
it
next
every
week. Yeah. And then also the idea was to basically increase or like have a supportive environment for female ride leaders, because as Jane said, it was quite male dominated. It's quite male dominated even to this day. We still go on rides, so we're still the only non-men. So
Even our own ride a lot of the time.
even our own ride, yeah. But I think we've done really well in that we've had a lot of rotating leaders over the years. It's been 4 years now. It'll be 5 this year, I guess. Jane and I met in 2017. I had come back from a cross-country bike tour, and Jane had started volunteering at the Bikerwave before I came back, but everyone was saying like, oh, you have to meet Rachel or something like that. And then we finally met, and then when we rode together, it was like, whoa, it's really fun. Like, you're really fast. I'm trying to keep up with you. So yeah, we just started riding more together too, and it was like, it would be fun to just, yeah, ride and start a ride that pushes limits and, you know.
Sometimes you find that person that's like just really well synchronized with you on the bike, and that was me and Rachel. Like, she is really good at riding in traffic and very confident with like, you know, cutting through the cars and taking the space on the road and stuff like that. So I learned a lot about that from her, and I was just
And I'm just trying to keep up with Jane.
But also we're both half Chinese and half white, so I kind of think that played into it. But so when I saw her speaking at an event, actually, I immediately recognized her as, because she said she was volunteering at the Bikerwave, and I was like, that looks like another Hapa. And I was like, that must be the person! People keep telling me, so I introduced myself. And then later, after we said we'd start a ride, she said, our name should be the Mixed Race. Won't that be funny?
I just remember we were thinking about names, and
I remember you were like working on your bike. We were in the Bikerwave. You were doing something on your bike or a bike, and you just like came up with it.
Yeah, I don't know. It just
funny
makes
you don't
sense.
remember
The
all
mixed race, yeah. And then we wanted to push the pace, right? Like we wanted to make it a drop ride.
I think there's a lot of times an expectation of the women's rides to be like, oh, friendly and no drop and all that stuff. So we want to like,
We want to be
not
mean and
be
drop.
that expectation, I guess.
Jackie, didn't you get a lot of flack also for riding fixed?
Yes. Oh, yes. I've been riding Fixie since I was 14. I definitely fell in love with Fixie, and it helped me not have to figure out when I had to switch things. I don't know. I think it was just like, it was love at first sight. I loved this bike that was way too big for me, and I didn't notice that until, you know, maybe 10 years later. But yeah, I ended up buying, I had a Fuji Feather. We had the same one. I had a silver one, she has a red one. And I showed up to rides on Fixie, and I would ride 48-17 for just about everything. And so many people would come up to me like, "Ah, you're the one leading? You're the one leading with this bike?" And I'd be like, yeah. There was just any instance of leading and I showed up on Fixie, there was always some type of someone saying something about the bike. I've learned to not judge riders based on the bike. I've seen people show up with any kind of bike and just destroy people with like $4,000 to $6,000, $7,000, $10,000 bikes. And I'm just like, yeah, that's amazing.
Which has been interesting. And I'm like, why doesn't Rachel get that? Oh, because she's short and more boobalicious than me. And tall and broad-shouldered, so I guess I can.
I've gotten sir.
Oh, really? Yeah. I used to get it on the phone all the time. Like, start it. Well, I sound like a
A big thing we've struggled with is that being like the girls category or the ladies, or being called ladies or being called girls, and that to me was just, it never bothered me until I was in sports, because if you call a men's field boys field, you'll hear a lot of people start talking, but a lot of people can be easily going into like, oh, these are the girls are just racing, and it's like demeaning almost.
Kind of along those lines too, and Jane, I'm sure you have things to say about this as well, but if we go on a ride and if it's like a century or something a bit more challenging and we complete it because, you know, we have the strength to do so or whatever, and we train and we ride just like any other person would, and like we're the only ones who get like, oh, good job, you did it,
yeah.
good job. And I'm like,
can we have a hand for the ladies?
yeah. Or like, oh, you're really strong, and I'm like, thank you, so are you. A hurdle in bike space is like, one time I was at another co-op cleaning my bike, and yeah, just like cleaning the chain and all that stuff, and I took all my wheels off and I got a good deep clean, and then I was putting my back tire back on, just put my back wheel back on, and it was fixie, and then like some random male-bodied person in the shop started explaining to me like how I should put on my wheel. And like, I didn't tell him that I've been volunteering at a bicycle co-op for like 9 years, and you need to tell me how to do that, but it's like those assumptions. There's a lot of assumptions that are made about female people,
But then you
in
like,
the bike community.
if you snap back or say something about that, then I'm a bitch.
Cycling is so intimately connected with the landscape, and there, you know, where there's more hills, cyclists might be, you know, climbing more. When there's long, vast stretches on the beach, that's different. Also, economical differences, race and class differences. All across the city, people drive in different ways. Across the city, road conditions are different all across the city. So, yeah, I think that, you know, depending on, you know, east, west, north, south parts of LA, they all have different environments that cyclists have to consider when they're riding. So yeah, I think that kind of gets internalized into us wherever we're riding more.
If you come on to mixed race, like, I don't think we're your typical Santa Monica bike shop $10,000 roadie ride.
I'm trying a new drink mix tonight, so we're gonna see how it works out.
So in 2021, kind of at the height of the pandemic, actually April 2021, I had been doing these intense rides. I had just gotten a road bike, and we were doing all kinds of climbs. We just did the lobster ride, and on the lobster ride, I kind of felt like it's getting kind of harder to like push myself as much as I usually do. So I had this little bit of a premonition something was going on, but I thought maybe it was just aging because I'm now 40. And within weeks, I was in the shower and felt a lump in my breast, and I thought, uh-oh, because it's always been in the back of my mind that I might have to face breast cancer one day because my mother had it, and when I was about 20 and she was about 50, and she brought home the papers from the hospital, and I had like every risk factor for breast cancer. So I went to the doctor pretty shortly after that, and in May 2021 I got the diagnosis that it was breast cancer. And it, as any cancer survivor can tell you, it's a shocking, horrible experience to hear that diagnosis. And I kind of went to like, I'm gonna die, which I think is pretty common. And for like a week before they run other tests to see if it's spread or, you know, what the extent of the cancer is, you're just kind of in the dark. I had no idea if they were gonna say, well, we can probably cure this, or there's nothing we can do. And I tended to go toward catastrophizing and thinking like, this is it. So I just really thought like, what do I want to be doing here? If, you know, obviously all of our times are limited, but we don't really think about that usually until we get some news like this. And I just kept going to, I want to be on my bike with people I love. Sorry. So I continued to go on mixed race because all my doctors said, great, do all your normal activities before treatment, because there's about, I think that was close to 2 months before, by the time, between my diagnosis and before starting treatment. So I kept going on mixed race, and at first I wasn't sure how many people I wanted to share the news with. So I remember the first week I was on mixed race after the diagnosis, I had quite a few people say, are you okay? You seem kind of upset, and I didn't want to tell them yet, just it seemed like odd to drop it on the mixed race, be like, yeah, I got breast cancer. When I shared the news, I got so much support from the biking community, and that was, it really kept me going, just everybody, you know, cheering me on. It felt like I have my own like cheer section, and just thinking about that when I was in the chemo chair, or you know, in the throes of nausea from the chemo, because you're just laying there, you can't really do much for days on end after each chemo. Chemo lasted, I think, 4 months, and I would come on mixed race, so they were spaced 3 weeks apart, and each, I would skip the first week because I'd be too flat out sick and nauseated. I would attend the second week after an infusion, and then I would try to lead the third week, and chemo accumulates in your system, so it makes it like, it just makes everything hard to do. You get so fatigued, and like your red blood cells are being killed off by the chemo, and so they can't like carry the oxygen around your body. So I would be like just gasping. I mean, I'm normally gasping for breath on mixed race anyway, but just like going at any speed, I was like just gasping for air and couldn't get air. And then I went into surgery, and thankfully I was very lucky with my surgery that I had a quick and uncomplicated recovery, because that is, from what I'm finding out, not the norm for a mastectomy. I was able to get back on my bike within 1 month after the surgery, And the like first day I did 20 miles, and the next day I did like 40. Jackie and I rode out to the Christmas tree lane. And ever since then, I almost have this feeling like I'm just trying to like race time and get as much time on my bike as I can. Yeah, this kind of diagnosis really made me just really think about what's important to me, what I want to be doing here, and just seeing, you know, this amazing community that I have around me.
35 bucks each way on the boat, and then 35 for the permit. So we spent, yeah, like
I think my business and cycling within itself stems a lot from my mom. My mom was an artist, my mom was a cyclist. My mom rode her bike like a whole bunch of different places in the United States. This is like 20 years ago. She's a woman of color. Like my mom is Mexican and Chinese. I would always see her do these marathons. I would see her do all these bike trips. She rode from one side of Colorado to the other. She's rode her bike from here to Santa Barbara and back. She's done San Francisco all the way to LA, self-supported. And growing up and seeing that, I was like, wow, like I want to be like my mom one day. And she taught me how to ride a bike. On rides, she would connect the bike on her bike so she wouldn't have to worry about dropping me. And I think when I hit 10 or 12, my mom got really sick and she had a lot of lung problems. And I saw an athlete go from doing marathons and 100-mile rides to someone who couldn't go up the stairs without losing their breath. And I think that crushed me at one point. And my mom was deported when I was 12, so I also didn't have the ability to see her every day anymore. And that hindered a lot of just me as a person. And I think once I was a little bit more older, like maybe in my 20s, I think cycling helped me so much to go through those emotions and help me process everything that had happened. Recently, my mom passed away about like 6 weeks ago. In Mexico, there isn't a lot of finances. There's a whole thing between me being an American and being in like a foreign country. I'm the foreigner, and there isn't a lot of help. And I needed to cough up a big chunk of grands. And most people don't have that in their savings. And I'm not a person, it might be pride, it might be ego. I'm not good at telling people I need help. And I had to make a GoFundMe, I had to tell people, I had to become vulnerable and tell people the truth and tell people what was going on. And I just kept seeing how much it was being reposted, shared, people donated any amount. If you donated from $5 to $100, any amount of money meant the world to me. And having that support system, I think, made everything bearable. And at one point I felt like, oh, I've lost all my family, I'm alone. And then having that realization of like, no, I'm not alone. I have amazing people around me that genuinely care for me, genuinely can help me. And having Jane and Rachel just kind of like reaching out, giving me the space, but also being like, hey, when you need us, we're here. Same thing with the community. And it was a big help. And I couldn't feel more lucky and loved by everyone.
And any other stuff? And then next week, I'm not going to be here. Potentially a short ride or no ride, so stay tuned.
For me, so Jane and I started mixed race in 2017 in October. And from that time to now, it's really been a really good mental health support system for me. So in April of 2018, my dad passed away. He actually took his own life, so that was like a really traumatic thing for my family. And just a few months later in July, I broke my neck doing the coaster break challenge, which I don't recommend that anyone do. But anyway, but I know a lot of people have fun doing that. But yeah, cycling has been, and just like intense exercise has been my coping mechanism for emotions since forever, basically. And so after I had my crash, I had to be off the bike for a year to let my neck heal up after I had surgery. So it was really challenging for me. That year was very tough. After, like with my dad and then like losing cycling. So I was not really in a good mental state. But even during that time, when I couldn't ride, I would still come to Biker Wave every week and see the ride off. I was really thankful that Jane was able to lead those rides while I was out, and mixed race could continue to ride during that time. But yeah, even, I mean, I've struggled with depression as well, starting from 2014. Sometimes it comes and goes for a year or two, and that can be really challenging. But having mixed race every week has been really good for me. It's like a thing that I really look forward to. If everything else sucks, like mixed race is awesome, and I love that.
And I always say, like, yeah, biking, it's not, I don't do it like for exercise or something like that. Like, I'm a commuter, so I do it for transportation. But mostly I do it to hang out with my friends and people I like. So, you know, I don't want to go riding. We were out, what, like 15 hours yesterday?
Yeah.
I don't want to spend that long with like most people. But there are some people I would like, you know, I will spend all day with. And so like exercise and the health benefits or whatever are just kind of a byproduct of hanging out with my friends.
And then I'll talk to my non-biking friends, you know, about like what we're doing. And I'm doing 100 miles over the weekend, or 150 or 200 or whatever. And they're like, oh my God, like that is so crazy. And I'm like, yeah,
Are you a fitness junkie?
My friends are crazy. Like, I don't know. It's just cool to be around people who also like to do that.